The World Bank released a prediction assessment on Tuesday that essentially tells us that Donald Trump has wrecked the economy, not just here in the United States, but across the globe, so badly, and yes, it is because of his policies. He wrecked it so badly that we are looking at potentially the worst decade of economic growth in 60 years. For 60 years, we have not had anyone come into the Oval Office the way that Donald Trump has in just the first 5 months and wreck things so badly that he's destroying the global economy. Again, not just the US, but the global economy. I will get into the specifics in just a moment, but first, a quick word from today's video sponsor.
I've talked a lot about what Trump's return could mean for our democracy, but let's talk about what's already happening to the media landscape. Major outlets like MSNBC and the LA Times are shifting to adopt more conservative perspectives. Then there's Bezos, the owner of the Washington Post, and Sam Altman donating $1 million to Trump's inauguration because he'll lead our country into the age of AI, despite warning AI could concentrate power, erode freedoms, and reinforce biases. And these are just the moves that we know about. What about the outlets keeping their shift to the right quiet, letting bias creep into your feed unnoticed? And with algorithms already controlling what we see in the first place, finding truly independent voices is more urgent and rare than ever. That's why I've trusted my partners at Ground News for a long time to help me critically analyze the news that I consume. They're the only app not trying to tell you what to think. Instead, they organize every perspective by story with insight on each source's political bias, credibility, and even the financial incentives behind the headlines. You can even filter out extremist outlets to focus on reliable reporting that actually matters. It's how I've saved hours of research into the stories I talk about without wasting time sifting through propaganda and misinformation. Trump knows that controlling the narrative is the first step to controlling the people. But I trust Ground News to make sure the truth never gets buried, and you should too. For a limited time, you can get the same plan that I use every day for nearly half the cost. Just go to ground.news/ROF or scan my QR code to get their top-tier Vantage plan for $5 a month. Ground News is completely independent, nonpartisan, they aren't manipulating algorithms, and they don't show ads on their platform for clickbait. In fact, I've found new, alternative, and highly credible outlets who do reap the benefit of my clicks through their platform. So your subscription means more than accessing a better way to stay informed. You're protecting the independent voices that are disappearing before our eyes.
So here is what the New York Times had to say about this new assessment and prediction from the World Bank. Quote, "Despite the weakening outlook, the global economy is not expected to fall into a recession," the World Bank said. However, the trade tension is setting the stage for the weakest decade of growth since the 1960s. Economic development in many of the poorest parts of the world has come to a standstill already. Per the forecast, global growth is expected to drop from 2.8% last year to 2.3%, a decline of 0.4 percentage points worse than forecast in January, prior to the avalanche of tariffs imposed by the U.S. president. World Bank chief economist Indermit Gill said this: "The world economy today is once more running into turbulence. Without a swift course correction, the harm to living standards could be deep." The vast majority of this is due to the tariffs that Donald Trump has put in place. The report makes that crystal clear. Had Trump not done the tariffs, we wouldn't be in this situation. And of course, the World Bank is not just looking at the United States in this report. Of course, they are looking across the globe, and they say, look, we're not going to have a global recession. But it's important to understand what that means. A global recession would mean that globally, on average, economies shrank instead of growing slightly. Now, that's the average. The United States, of course, is on path to hit a recession. We are seeing slowing job growth. They've already revised the jobs numbers from April and March by 95,000 jobs, or had to revise them down by 95,000 jobs. We know that we did not have positive growth for the first quarter of this year. The second period, of course, quarter, will end at the end of June. And if we did not have growth during that period, the U.S. will have a recession. But the reason that's not a global recession, obviously, is because when you take into the account averages, other countries that do well, globally, that's not a recession. But this report does not paint a rosy picture of what's happening in the United States. The worst economic situation on the planet since the 60s, and it's all because of one dumbass. Like, can we take a second to appreciate that? Donald Trump has not been in office for 5 full months. Not even 5 full months, folks. And he is so stupid, so bad at this, that he's tanked the global economy. And of course, the U.S. is faring a little worse than others, but it's so bad it has ramifications across the planet. That is a unique talent, but it's not a talent that anyone should want to have. It's a talent for destruction, a talent for disruption, and it all comes from the gross incompetence of Donald J. Trump. Welcome to the Ring of Fire YouTube channel. I am Farron Cousins, the host of Ring of Fire here on YouTube. I don't know if this is your first time here, or maybe you're somebody who comes here every single day, but either way, let me tell you what's going on. Ring of Fire was actually started in the year 2004 by none other than our own America's lawyer, Mike Papantonio. And over the last 20 plus years, Ring of Fire has gone from being a 1-hour weekend radio program on Air America through a series of changes. Go Left TV, which we started back in 2007. We've been on the Young Turks network. And of course, this very YouTube channel here that started, obviously, as they all do, with no subscribers. And we've now ballooned to well over 1 million as we go on our way to that 2 million mark. So again, if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. Take a few minutes, look around. We have content that actually goes back 20 years. So there's lots to see, there's lots to do. And trust me, with the next 4 years of Donald Trump getting back in office, we will be here every day, every single day with fresh content for you to keep you informed about what's happening and, of course, to warn you of the potential dangers that Donald Trump poses as we approach his second term.